Hare Krishna, welcome everybody. This is Krishna Dasa. So today we are going to conclude chapter 17. I am super excited. So before we begin, I will say the prayers to Guru and God. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalake Chakshurum Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः.
Hare Krishna. So today we are going to do slokas 17.23 till the end of 17th chapter. So I will play the slokas now.
ॐ तत्सदिति निर्देशो ब्रह्मणस्त्रिविधः स्मृतः ब्राह्मणास्तेन वेदाश्च यज्ञाश्च विहिताः पुरा तस्मादोमित्युदाहृत्य यज्ञदानतपः क्रियाः प्रवर्तन्ते विधानोक्ताः सततं ब्रह्मवादिनाम् तदित्यनभिसन्धाय फलं यज्ञतपः क्रियाः दानक्रियाश्च विविधाः क्रियन्ते मोक्षकाङ्क्षिभिः सद्भावे साधुभावे च सदित्येतत् प्रयुज्यते प्रशस्ते कर्मणि तथा सच्छब्दः पार्थयुज्यते यज्ञे तपसि दाने च स्थितिः सदिति चोच्यते कर्म चैव तदर्थीयं सदित्येवाभिधीयते अश्रद्धया हुतं दत्तं तपस्तप्तं कृतं च यत् असदित्युच्यते पार्थ न च तत्प्रेत्य नो इह. ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे श्रद्धात्रयविभागयोगो नाम 17.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Who is
Krishna,
ready?
Guruji. It's Simranji's turn today. Thank you, Simranji.
Hare Krishna, 17.23. The words Om Tat Sat have been declared as symbolic representations of the Supreme Absolute Truth from the beginning of creation. From them came the priests, scriptures, and sacrifice. Therefore, acts of sacrifice, charity, and austerity, as prescribed by the scriptures, are always begun by uttering Om by the expounders of the Vedas. With the utterance of Tat, acts of sacrifice, austerity, and various forms of charity are performed without desiring results by those seeking liberation. The word Tat is used in the sense of reality and goodness. And O Partha, the word Tat is likewise used for auspicious actions. Steadfastness in sacrifice, austerity, and charity is also called Tat, and actions connected to these are performed for the sake of Supreme, is also termed Tat. O Partha, whatever is performed without faith, whether it be sacrifice, charity, austerity, or any other ad is called asat. It has no value here or hereafter. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So I don't know how many of you are following when he is reading the explanations, but Sri Krishna is now giving us a very powerful closure to the 17th chapter and pretty much to the first part of the Bhagavad Gita. What I mean as first part is, or maybe the second part of Bhagavad Gita. So there are many ways people have divided the Bhagavad Gita, but if you ask me, you can look at the Bhagavad Gita. One of the ways to look at it is, in the first and second chapter, it is pretty much setting the stage, the introduction and the key concept. So that is why second chapter is really large, largest chapter. And then in the middle, he goes through all the various explanations. He goes into deep, on various topics, jnana, karma, bhakti, so many things he talks about. And 18th chapter is more like summary. So in 18th chapter, whatever he says, you will not ask for an explanation because he has already explained it. So in 18th chapter, he will drive home some conclusions. He will, for example, he will say, Sarva Dharmani Parityajya. He will say, just, surrender. And at that time, you will not ask why. So the point is, 18th chapter is more like a conclusion. So in the middle, where he is going deep into each chapter, 17th chapter is pretty much the end of that. And in that, these last verses are very, very powerful. Now I will tell you why. Let's go through this. So as you can see, where is Ekansh? Okay. Ekansh is telling me, आपने बोला था मंत्रा देंगे, पहले मंत्रा बता दो, पूरा 1 घंटा मत बिताओ मुझे. Okay. So, that is what, in these slokas, Sri Krishna is talking about the mantra, Om Tat Sat. A beautiful, powerful mantra. It becomes beautiful and powerful only when you understand the details, only when you understand the essence of it, and that's what we're going to cover for most of today's chapter. I hope that keeps you excited, all of you. So Krishna already explained that there are 3 gunas and how everything is controlled by those gunas. You all know the gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. And if you remember, Sri Krishna also said that our first job is to align with Sattva Guna. That is the first task. But once we are good at it, we have to eventually overcome that also. So in other words, we have to become... Who remembers the word that Krishna used? Just raise your hands, please. The word Krishna used to mention a person who is raised above the gunas. Let us see. Any new hands coming up? Okay. Same old. You're thinking, some of you? Okay. Okay, Anika?
Guruji, is it Gunatita?
Yes. Gunatita. So you are very right. So Gunatita is the person who has already overcome the 3 gunas. Deepali was the one who covered it during the revision, but she forgot. Okay. So, why are we talking about that here? Because Om Tat Sat, that mantra, fundamentally is a reminder of that quest that we are on. That mantra reminds us that first you have to align with Tattva Guna, and eventually you have to overcome that as well. And this mantra is a reminder. Whenever you utter this mantra, automatically, if you understand everything else we are going to cover now, it will automatically remind us of that goal. So, Krishna is also making it very clear that no matter what rituals or what austerities or what charitable acts we perform, this is what we covered earlier in this chapter. Krishna said, it is not going to be beneficial or impactful if it is not combined with faith. So what I'm doing right now is I'm giving you a very quick overview of what we are going to dive deep into in this chapter, so that when we go deep, everything feels connected. You get a very good idea of what we are talking about. Yeah. So let us start with the first part of the mantra. So the first part of the mantra is Om. Om Tat Sat. The first part is Om. And we have spoken about Om previously, and there is a lot of Vedic literature available for you all. Any one of you who is really interested in research, you can just go and do a search on what are all the divine qualities of Om, and there is so much information you can get. Okay, you can write a thesis on that. But let us focus on the most important aspect, which is relevant to our spiritual development. There, Om is considered as the fundamental sound. Every other sound is a derived sound. And also, the Vedanta tells us that Om embodies all the different states. What are the different states? Waking state, sleeping state, dreaming state, and there is also a fourth state. We can talk about it later. It is called Turiam. It's a very, very favorite topic of Vedantists. And there is something that unites all these states, does it not? See, when you sleep, you don't realize what is going on around you, correct? But are you still not you? Now, when you dream, maybe you become a Maharaja, maybe you become a prince, maybe you become a princess, maybe you become an elephant. I don't know. Like, it all depends on your dream. So in the dream, you are somebody else. But are you really somebody else? Are you not still you? Because no matter who you are in the dream, when something bad happens, you feel the fear. When something good happens, you feel the happiness. So there has to be something that unites all these different states of being. And that is what Vedanta says is the cosmic vibration. That is, Om is that unifying cosmic vibration. And this Om, if we know how to utter it correctly, it aligns us with the cosmic rhythm. What do you mean by cosmic rhythm? Even in the Bhagavad Gita, you may remember, Sri Krishna has said that he is Om. And so in that perspective, Om is the supreme being himself in the cosmic form is Om. That is why they say that if a lot of people ask, and in the past I've said this also, a lot of people ask, what kind of mantras are powerful? Like, give me few mantras. Some people want more and more mantras, like they are going on a collection, But what a lot of sages and saints have said, that even if you can just say Om, but if you say it with the right mindset, the right intention, and the right focus, that can do all the magic that you want to happen. So in the 10th chapter, Sri Krishna had referred himself as Om. Anika is here. Anika, you want to read that 10.25?
Yes, Guru. 10.25 Maharshinam Briguraham Giramasmekam Aksharam Yatnyanam Japayatnyosmi Stavaranam Himalayah. Among the great sages, I am Brigu. Among speeches, I am the single syllable Om. Among sacrifices, I am the Japayatnya, sacrifice of chanting. And among immovable things, I am the Himalayas. Hare Krishna.
Very beautiful. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Anika ji. So as you can see, Ekam Aksharam, that is how Krishna has defined Om. And he has said that among speeches, I am that Om. Isn't it so powerful? Now, Om is not just for purification. There is a lot of other deeper symbolism and deeper aspect of Om. And one of the other specialities, if you are interested in the technical aspects. Can anyone tell me how any sound is created? If you have to go to the most fundamental aspect, if I have to ask you at the root, most basic aspect of sound, how is sound created? Apurva, yes?
Disturbance in the medium.
Okay, disturbance, that is one way of putting it. Any other way? Sulataji, you are going to say something?
Yeah, actually, when sound exists, when it strikes and it is strike.
Exactly. I think that is a very technically correct answer.
Om is unstruck
Yes,
sound.
yes, I'm coming to that. So, any sound in the universe technically can happen only when two or more objects strike each other. Like even when I'm talking, you can hear what I'm talking, that speech is because air is hitting my vocal cords. Okay? When you're playing a musical instrument, something is hitting a string or something is hitting a leather surface or so on and so forth. You think about it, there is no sound that you can imagine which cannot or which can happen without two or more things hitting each other. The only exception is Om. Because apparently Om came by itself. So that is why in Vedanta, Om is called as Anahad Nad. Anahad. Means it came without a cause. It came without something striking anything. Because it is the Supreme Being itself. So technically that is what makes Om so much more important. And so what Krishna has said, if you connect all the dots, Krishna had said that I am Om, and Krishna had also said that I am in every atom. These are the three types of Vishnu we spoke about. Correct? Garbhodakshe, Kshirodakshe, Karanodakshe, Vishnu. So when you connect these both, would it not mean, or can you deduce that every atom has Om in it? Or if you want to explain it in other words, can you now say that every atom has the same cosmic vibration within it? Why I am putting it in this way is because then now you all intellectuals can go and do a Google search on what is called string theory. So the string, what Krishna said may be old and thousands of years old, but the most modern science, they call this the string theory. So you can go and research on it. But at the most fundamental level, what does string theory say? String theory says that at a quantum level, every particle is essentially a vibrating filament of energy. So that is what string theory says. It says that you go to the minutest level and the most fundamental building block of the universe, you call it whatever particle you want to call it, okay? We don't want to debate there. But whatever you want to call it, they say that is nothing but a vibrating filament. A filament means it looks like a string. That is why it is called string theory. So what is modern science also saying? It is saying that everything is vibration. That is precisely what Vedanta has been saying for thousands and thousands of years, and Krishna has been saying it is that Om, which is so that is why it is all the more important for us to understand Om completely. And then with the right understanding and the right bhava, if we can even align with Om, I think we are well on the way to raising our consciousness. Now there is also another Upanishad called the Nada Bindu Upanishad, and that also gives a little bit of more insight into this phenomenon. Anika, you think you want to try that also?
Yes, Guruji.
Yes, that excitement, I love it. Enthusiasm. Go ahead.
Yata madupo madhu piban gandha naveti kinchana tata chittam nada shaktam vishaya nahi kankshati. Just as the bee drinking honey does not care for the odor, so the chitta, mind, which is always absorbed in sound nada, does not long for sensual objects, as it is bound by the sweet smell of nada and has abandoned its flitting nature.
Beautiful. You read it so much better than I can ever do, Anika. I think going forward, All the Sanskrit slokas, one of you should read. Like Anika is very good at it. Sandeepji disappeared, but he's also pretty good. Ashaji is there. A lot of these people, I think you all should now do all the Sanskrit. Don't let me do it. No, I'm not that good at it. But what does this sloka say? It's a beautiful, powerful sloka. It takes the example of a honeybee. So when you see the honeybee, it is sucking the nectar from a flower. When it is sucking the nectar, is it really bothered about all the other orders around it? It is not. It is busy, it is focusing. It is only interested in that nectar that it is extracting from the flower. This is just like that, our chitta. Chitta is the word used for the mind. When it is absorbed in nad, what is nad? That is the other way of saying om. Anahat nad is om. So when that chitta is absorbed in that om, in that nad, it will not be, it won't matter what else is going around. Then all the sensual distractions will not really disturb. So beautifully they have, connected all of that and given us the importance of that om. See, if you want to go even more technical, a lot of us know, or for the others, I can tell you that sound is measured in frequencies, and a human ear can hear only a limited range of frequencies. Typically between 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. That is the range that a human ear can perceive. You see how limited it is? But Anahat Nad is a Nad that exists way beyond this frequency. What does that mean? So yes, when we say Om, it represents that Anahat Nad, but it is not exactly that. So we cannot use our mouth to produce that exact Anahat Nad. Because why? Because that is anahad. And what you are producing is not anahad. It is based on two things striking. So how can two things strike to produce something that is produced without striking? So it cannot, you are trying to emulate, but that is the best we can do, and that is okay. But that is a beginning. But when we start doing that, what is the goal? We said you have to become a gunatita eventually. And that will take you into a deep state of meditation. Yogic meditation. And it is documented that when we enter such deep meditative state, then you can perceive that Anahat Nad. And that perception doesn't happen through your ears. That is a beautiful part. These are all very technically documented in some of our authentic scriptures. So the real Anahat Nad, if you want to perceive it, you cannot use your ears to perceive it. Apparently, it is perceived through your heart chakra. It's all very interesting, very, very beautiful concepts. But if you that is why Krishna says you have to follow the process. Humility, lack of pride, surrender, prani prashnena, prani patena. What do you think they are all doing? They are all purifying us, and they are all strengthening our heart chakra. When you are in a mind of humility and surrender, your heart opens up. You are receptive. What does it mean to surrender? Surrender means you are totally now receptive to the divine grace. You see how everything connects with each other, correct? There are a lot of other technicalities. We can probably look at them later. And if anybody has any questions or interest, let me know. I'm happy to go more into details on, from heart chakra, how the energy flows, and then there are so many nadis in the body. And some of us, a few of you are in the Kriya Yoga session with me. So Kriya Yoga is fundamentally for that. Kriya Yoga is to purify those nadis. That is where the prana is flowing. So we pick the three main nadis, and then we have practices to purify them, and so on and so forth. So all of this together, they prepare us for a holistic experience. So intellectually, you know what is right thing to do. Krishna has said consistent. So, but consistence, abhyasa yoga, we are practicing, and then we understand, that everything is energy. And then from an external perspective, we are now learning how to purify our energy, how to align. So this is the process of extracting the makhan from milk, And once the makhan is there, you are all ready. That is the whole idea. So as you know, one more small technicality I want to describe just to make sure this session is complete in itself is Om itself is made up of 3 syllables, A, U and M. But some people are mistakenly preaching that, this is the problem with half knowledge. Because if you do a research today online, you will get a result back saying Om actually consists of 3 syllables, A, U and M. Then there are these people who are going and preaching that, then it is not actually Om, it is Aum. And then they are now, there is a lot of YouTube videos you will find where they are actually saying you have to say Aum, But that is not correct, because the complete knowledge, if you want to seek the complete knowledge, yes, Om is consisting of A, U and M. But if you look at the same text that is described that Om is AUM. Also, if you go deeper into the same text, it says that, but as per the Sanskrit grammar, when A and U combine, it becomes O. So that is why, although it is AUM, when you pronounce it is still Om only. It is not Aum. Okay? So I'm saying all of this because you are all free to do your own research. But then don't try to pick up the wrong pronunciations and the wrong stuff. So, but why is the AUM important? Is because there is significance of that also, where the first part starts with your abdomen. So one day we should have a special session just to chant Om the right way. But if you do it the right way, it has to start from your abdomen. That is the If you just say it will come from the bottom. Then the U part, it goes to the heart. Okay, and then the if you just close your lips and if you try to say you can feel it. The vibration is higher. The vibration will not happen below. It will happen above. So that is why the AUM is specified, that it starts from the abdomen and it goes all the way up. And that is how the Om has to be correctly pronounced. And it is not just Om. You have to also focus on the silence after the Om. So because you should not say Om, 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 Om. That's beating the point. That is not how it is chanted. It always, if you look at any Vedic chanting, there will be a pause after Om. Om. And then they will say something else. Like Om Purnamadam Purnamidam. It is not Om Purnamadam, Om Purnamidam. They won't do like that. So that pause is very important, because that pause is also. So A, U and M, they are the 3 states that we just discussed. Waking state, sleeping state and dreaming state. And the pause is the 4th state, which is Turiam. So they all have to be complete together. I think I have gone as deep as required for this session, so that you are all, interested now in that Om. You are not taking it as just some symbol. It is not just some religious symbol. It is a very scientific, very spiritual, very powerful topic in itself. Okay, so Om Tat Sat, we have covered Om and why it is important, how it has to be pronounced. Then comes the second part, Tat. What is Tat? That is the unseen divine presence, which is beyond physical perception. So in Sanskrit, Idam means that which is visible, that which is here, that which is immediate. And Tat means the reality that is beyond the ordinary vision. So when we say Tat, and if you understand what Tat is, then automatically you will acknowledge that the Supreme is present. Because what is Tat saying? The Tat doesn't say that which does not exist. The Tat says it is that which is present but cannot be perceived by your senses. That is Tat, the Supreme, that cannot be perceived by the senses. So what happens once you say Tat, and if you understand what Tat means, it automatically gives you the humility. Because if you really understand what Tat is that divine Supreme which is ever existing everywhere, but I cannot perceive it. So I am so limited. I am so limited that I cannot perceive that which exists everywhere. How limited do I have to be for that to happen? Imagine. See, if it is something that exists somewhere in some, lonely planet outside the galaxy and I cannot perceive it, it's okay. But something that exists all around me, something that exists within me, and I cannot perceive it, does it not make me very limited? So this realization, whenever you say Tat, has to come. And that will keep you grounded, that will keep you humble. So rather than focusing on personal ownership, doership, if you say Tat the right way, you will realize that there is something beyond me. I am very limited, which also means I am not the doer. In daily practice, this Tat will make sure that any task that you perform will be transformed into a devotional task. This is what is meant by renunciation in action. Because when you are performing any action, that Tat has to always be in your mind. No, I am limited. I am only doing this as an instrument because there are things, there are powers way higher than me, way more powerful that I cannot even perceive. You see what I mean? This is what is the essence of that famous sloka. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam yatva mam shantim richati. We are all agitated, we are all worried, we are all anxious, because we all think we are the doer. Tomorrow if I am not there, the earth will, break. The sky will fall down. Who will feed the 7 billion people if tomorrow I am not paying attention? That is how we all think, right? What will happen to my home? What will happen to this? What will happen to that? However, for whatever reason, we somehow believe that the world is resting on our shoulders. See? From a position of pride. It is the kind of pride only. It is a kind of ego because we think we are the doer, we are the controller. Somehow everything depends on us. But this Tat will shift that. This Tat will shift that into I am just an instrument and I am only going to focus on what is the rightful action for me to do. And beyond that, whether it proves to support somebody, whether it proves to hold the sky, that is beyond me. That I leave to Tat. You see? That is the whole essence of it. So we have covered Om, we have covered Tat. Now what remains is Sat. Okay? What is Sat? Everybody knows this. Sat and Asat. We have discussed this earlier also. But then you have to understand that Sat does not just mean truth like, I'm saying, your name is Smita. That is truth. That is speaking the Sat. But that is not just what is meant by Sat. What is Sat? Sat is that absolute truth. And what is one of the main qualities of absolute truth? Two fundamental aspects of it. First aspect, it is eternal. So that truth will never change. Correct? That today if I ask you, where does the sun rise from? And you will point, you will say it is rising from there. Yes, that is true. But is it eternal? It is not. Correct? First of all, it depends on where you are. Tomorrow you go to the other side of the planet, you will be pointing in the other direction. So although it was a truth, it is not eternal. The first thing. Second, that Sat is what we call as immutable. They both mean the same thing in different ways. Immutable means you cannot alter it. You cannot add your mirchi masala to it. You cannot remove something that you don't like from it. That Sat is absolute, eternal, immutable. That is what we need to realize whenever we utter the word Sat. So what happens? What happens when we now think about this Sat, when we try to align with that Sat? The moment you get into that mindset, it automatically helps you rise above all the temporary nonsense. You will now no longer do things just for social approval. What is social approval or what is social disapproval? It is so temporary, so shallow. Look at any great personality in the history of the world. Some people will say bad things about that person, some people will say good things about that person. And people who say good things about that person we'll also not always say good things about that person. You see? Take Mother Teresa, take Mahatma Gandhi, take whoever you can think of. There is no single soul in the history of humanity about whom society always had the same opinion. So that is the shallowness of depending on social approval. What else? Convenience. We want to do things based on convenience. So if you go to a yoga teacher and the yoga teacher says, beta, if you have to progress, you have to do these 5 things. And then you will come home and you will say, out of that, thing number 2 is not that pleasant. So I'll probably do thing number 1 2 times. We make it a buffet. And whatever is convenient, we like to latch onto that. What is not convenient, so this is human tendency. So be it spiritual progress, if I tell you sit and do meditation, same thing happens. If I say Ananyas Chintayanto, when we say do consistently remember, but not right now. Right now, I'm with my childhood friend and we have a party. So let A khatam hone do, then I will again think of, you see what happens. But the moment you understand Sat and what Sat stands for, you will rise above all of this pettiness. Because that is what Sat is. Sat is immutable. It is not a buffet. It is immutable. It is a la carte. And it is permanent. That is very, very powerful. So in other words, my favorite term, in other words. So in other words, what happens? Whatever you do, you no longer do it just for shallow needs like social acceptance or praise or, some little bit of material benefits. Whatever you do now suddenly becomes genuine because you are now aligned with that Sat. The Upanishads also describe that Brahman, this is how Brahman is described. Brahman is described as that unchanging eternal truth. You remember, na? We spoke about this even when we explained Purusha and Prakriti. Does anybody remember how we explained Purusha and Prakriti? Does the word sound familiar? Purusha, Prakriti? Yes. Okay. Rajeshji, what do you remember out of that?
Purusha is eternal and Prakriti is ever changing.
Exactly. So Purusha is never changing, Prakriti is ever changing. And we discussed how when the ever changing and never changing come together, all the magic of this universe happens. What is the key takeaway again? Purusha. The Sat is not Prakriti. Sat is Purusha. And the definition for Purusha is never changing. Okay, so that is why Vedanta will always say that if you can understand what Sat is, how eternal and unchanging it is, then you will not be disturbed. You will not be swayed by all these temporary things. Did we not discuss that even gunas are temporary? Because right now maybe Satoguna is a little predominant, but the moment the session is over, the moment we go turn on our favorite soap opera, you go into Rajas and maybe, tomorrow before waking up, you remember what all job you have to do, you go into Tamas, right? So even the gunas are so temporary, but that Sat will always keep you grounded. So when Krishna says, tie your senses to the yoke of God consciousness, what does that yoke of God consciousness mean? Sat. Okay. So always keep reminding Sat, 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 Sat. Okay. This is the essence of the very famous mantra that says, Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Very popular shloka, but this is the essence of it, where it says that lead me from the unreal to the real. In other words, lead me towards that Sat. Everything else is Asat. Which also means lead me from darkness to light and from death to immortality. Make sense? Now you combine Om Tat Sat. See how powerful it now becomes. It is no longer just a statement. It is no longer just a religious slogan. Now, if you put all of this learning together, see 3 little words, how powerful they become. Om channels the cosmic vibration. Tat remains as of the invisible presence of the divine everywhere. And Sat reinforces the need to acknowledge and surrender to that unchanging truth. And Sri Krishna is advising that all acts of sacrifice, charity, penance, they all become beneficial when you do that with this realization. What realization? He's not saying go read the entire Vedanta. He's saying I've already taught you Vedanta. I'm not distilling everything to just Om Tat Sat. Can you do that? So whenever you are trying to donate something to somebody, you just have to say Om Tat Sat and remember what it means. Your act will automatically become Nishkama Karma. You see what I'm saying? This is the beauty, this is the power. Tomorrow when you are saying Hare Krishna, or tomorrow when you are chanting Om Namo Narayanaya, before the chant starts, say Om Tat Sat and try to remember what it means. The chant will automatically become divine. Automatically you will get the focus. You will not be disturbed. So on and so forth. See? When you eat your food, say Om Tat Sat, so that now food is no longer just for sense enjoyment. Food suddenly has a more divine purpose. See? So if you understand Om Tat Sat, and if you can always remember that, then I think you are put on the easy highway to spiritual evolution. That is the whole idea here. So Krishna has described how the gunas are like currents in a vast ocean, and we discussed how tamas is like that piece of rock that will always pull you down, whereas rajas, it will keep creating more and more cravings, and sattva offers clarity, but it still ties us to material pride. So if you do charitable act, it is a mode of sattva only, but later on you can always get into pride that if the moment somebody says I'm such a good person, okay, that is pride. The biggest paradox is there are people who say I'm very humble. The very act of saying I'm humble is an indication of pride. What do you mean I am humble? You are still an I, right? And that is ego, that is pride, no? So here is where Krishna is beautifully saying that, again, remember what I am telling you. Om, it will ease your mental agitation because it is aligning it with the supreme, sublime frequency. The Tat will shift your focus from personal ego, personal pride and all of that to universal purpose. And the Sat will keep you centered, will keep you grounded and keep you always tied to that yoke of God consciousness. Powerful, right? Powerful, beautiful. That is Krishna. And Krishna says if you can now practice this regularly, you have to rise above the gunas very fast, very quickly. That is what he's saying. So he's not just saying you have to be a gunatita. Now he is, after explaining everything in depth, now he is giving us the secret mantra, and he says with all this understanding, because you have already understood now, you have already understood all the various concepts, and you have also understood that why pride is not good. You have understood the right mindset, humility, you have understood the need for all of that, right? Now this mantra will really work for you. This is Krishna's beautiful, beautiful gift to us, where he is building upon that. And then Krishna is saying, wait a minute, don't be in a hurry to just leave and say, no, I found the mantra of my life and I'm done. Krishna says, wait a minute. Although Om Tat Sat is the philosophy which I have explained, it is faith that will give it life. See how beautifully he puts it. He says, Om Tat Sat is the most powerful philosophy, but it is only faith that will give it life. Beautiful, no? So he's saying anything you do it with Om Tat Sat in your mind, but not just as a philosophy, but with faith. And that faith is what is actually going to give life to that Om Tat Sat and take you up. Faith is what they also call a Shraddha. So it is a conviction, the conviction that, yes, Tat, God is everywhere. Do you have the conviction? How many of us really have conviction? If you put your hand to your heart and honestly think, I can tell you that 100% of us don't have the conviction. None of us have the conviction. Because there are so many things we do when we think nobody is watching. Isn't it? If there is nobody in the room and if I'm alone, nobody to watch, don't I do things that I will not do if I'm in public? When nobody is watching, don't I have bad thoughts? Correct? But these are all indications that we are not yet there. It all means that we still don't have that conviction. The conviction that somebody is always there. Who is that somebody? That is that Supreme. That is Tat. So don't do anything negative, harmful, bad by thought or deed just because you think nobody is watching. Because somebody is always watching. If you get into that mindset, then you are aligned with Sat. So when you have conviction in Tat, you get aligned with Sat. See, that is the beauty here. And Krishna is promising that you just follow this with conviction. And if you do that, elevation, evolution, they are all guaranteed. And I like to put it in a simple sentence as faith deepens, worries will reduce, pride will soften, and gratitude would blossom. All of that would happen. So it's going to make you worry less. So how can you say whether you are on the right track? How can you say whether you are aligned with the Supreme? So I'm going to ask a question. Do you think you are worrying less than what you used to worry when we started chapter 1? Good. Do you think you are less proud now than you were when we started chapter 1? Beautiful. Do you think you are a little bit more grateful than what you were when we started chapter 1? See? Wonderful. So many of you are answering yes. But you don't have to answer me. You have to answer your own self. 3 simple questions. Am I worrying less? Am I less prideful? And am I more grateful? Just ask these 3 questions every day. And keep asking until the answer is yes. And then keep asking until the answer remains yes. That is the indication. Like Rajesh ji can tell you that even in corporate sector, when we are working on complex software services and all, for us, what is really important is there has to be a way to measure. How can you say whether a service or a product is successful or running correctly? You cannot say until you have a way of measuring. You have to measure and you have to have metrics, the right metrics that will tell you that things are working correctly. And when things are not working correctly, you need alarms that have to go very loudly saying that something is not correct. You see, the same thing in spiritual progress. You need a metric. And I've just given you 3 beautiful metrics, 3 powerful metrics, 3 unfailing metrics. Doesn't matter which part of the world you are, man, woman, animal, doesn't matter. It is going to be true for everybody. Am I worrying less? Am I less prideful? And am I more grateful? These 3 metrics, if you can measure, then you will always know you are on the right track. And if the answer is no, then you need to really raise your own alarms and then rethink, what am I doing wrong? What I should do better? You see, and that should be the constant, cycle for us. And of course, even Krishna says that it's not going to happen overnight. It is like, you're having a lot of fever. The doctor says, okay, I'll give you this tablet. It will help you with the fever. You put the tablet in your mouth and then you are putting the thermometer in your mouth at the same time and saying, no, the fever has not gone down. So it's not going to work like that. The medicine needs time to work just like that. You cannot immediately assume that tonight I'll go say Om Tat Sat and now my, consciousness is elevated. It's going to take time. That is why Krishna kept on saying our favorite word, consistency. Conviction and consistency. But if you do it, it will keep getting easier and easier and easier, and one fine day, you will not have to do anything. It will go into autopilot mode. Like a rocket, the principle, right? For a rocket also, they have to keep pushing the rocket. They need a lot of force. But once it crosses the atmosphere, then that's it. Then inertia itself keeps it going. Just like that, we have to keep striving until we cross our own atmosphere of resistance. And once that barrier of resistance is crossed, things will go into autopilot mode. But till that time, you have to be consistent. Consistency, very, very important. Now, when it comes to faith, I know some people like that story. Maybe Sulataji remembers that story. You remember that story, Sulataji, of the boy and the umbrella?
Yes. That brought in a village. They were trying to perform yajna. And the small
you can
boy...
maybe tell the story in a short way.
Yeah. Actually, a village experiences drought. And the villages, the saintly, some priests, they just decide that performing yajna... Sorry if I'm going wrong.
No, you're right. Go ahead.
Performing yajna will help. That there are certain kind of sacrifices, yajnas, Agniyotri yajna or something like that. So they decide and they gather there, and they, with all required ingredients, they just try to perform homa, yajna and all. And a small boy was observing that, and he also wants to be a part of that. And he quickly, because when people are getting ready with all things, he quickly runs also. He says, wait a minute, I'm also coming with my thing. So they wonder, when he comes back, they observe him having an umbrella in hand. So when they ask him, he says that you're performing yajna. He was having that conviction that it will rain. It will rain. So
Exactly.
he didn't want to get hurt.
So beautiful. So see, the tatparya behind the story is the grown-ups were performing yajna and praying to God for rain, but this little boy was the only one who actually carried an umbrella with him, because that is faith. And that is what Krishna says. You need to have the faith. Otherwise, doesn't matter how many mantras, mambo jumbos you do. That is why Krishna said, Om Tat Sat is a philosophy. Just like any mantra is a philosophy. What gives life to any mantra is faith. If you have the faith, that is why in other religion also they say, if you have faith even as small as a rai, it can move mountains. So beautiful. Thank you so much. We can also connect it to a very common problem in today's world. The very common problem. What is the common problem that is plaguing all of us, and especially the younger generation? Anxiety, worry. So I would maybe take a few minutes to quickly go through this anxiety, faith, and the role of I. How we can combine this, And see, there are two words I want you to focus on. One word is anxiety, and one word is pride. Does anybody see any similarity between these two? Okay, Simranji, what similarity you see?
Anxiety will come only if we relate ourselves with the I. Everything it's about me. Then because of the pride, that's what is pride.
Excellent, thank you. Correct answer. But if you want a interesting, a silly answer also, both these words, anxiety and pride, if you see what comes in the middle of both words, which letter comes? You should tell loudly.
I.
Yeah, that is the essence. That is what we need to focus on. That anxiety and pride, they both have that I right in the middle, and that is the culprit. If there was no I, then there will be no pride and there cannot be any anxiety. Isn't it very powerful? Because naturally they flourish. They need that I to flourish. Without that I is that food. Without that, anxiety and worries, they cannot flourish. This is what is said even in the Bhagavad Purana. I have taken one shloka which is a little relevant, which is 10.14.58. It's a slightly bigger shloka. Anika, you still want to try this?
Yes, Guruji.
Excellent. Look at that enthusiasm. I love that. Please go ahead.
10.14.58 Samashitaye padapaltavaplavam Mahat padam punya yasho murare Bhavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yat vipadam natesha. Faith, when nurtured, weaves itself into every dimension of life. It appears in moments of decision-making when an inner voice encourages the choice that aligns with higher values instead of short-sighted gains. It appears in times of difficulty when trust in the divine presence supports perseverance and humility. Some even find that reflecting on Om Tat Sat before starting a challenging task allows them to approach the situation with composure and confidence.
Excellent. Thank you so much. See, isn't it all powerful and beautiful? So, the first part starts with faith. It says how faith is so important. Faith has to be everywhere, in every aspect of what we do. The faith is very, very essential. And if we can remember this and reflect on Om Tat Sat, so simple, just 3 little words. Before you start any challenging task, before you start any initiative, that will transform it. That will transform the task or activity into an act of devotion, into an act of nishkama karma. And whenever you are doing nishkama karma, how can you feel nervous? What is nervousness? What is lack of confidence? What are you not confident about? It is always about the result. When somebody is giving an exam, what are they nervous about? They are nervous about the result, even before they start writing the exam. If somebody told them that doesn't matter what marks you get, you will still pass, will there be any nervousness? No, that means the nervousness was not about writing the exam. The nervousness was about what happens to the result. Correct? And nishkama karma by definition means you are not focusing on the result. So if every karma, every work was nishkama, then you can never have lack of confidence. You can never have nervousness. So beautiful. And what is the technique Krishna is giving here? It says just remember Om Tat Sat. Okay, I am going to write an exam, Om Tat Sat. I am going to start a new business, Om Tat Sat. Today I am going to have a very important person visiting, Om Tat Sat. And then naturally everything else will automatically align. That's such a beautiful thing. And Krishna says the one way, some of you may know this term used like, organic growth. I'm not talking about vegetables being organic. Like, for example, you have a website or you have a e-commerce store or something. How many customers are you having and how many customers are you attracting day by day? Now, if the customers are coming by themselves based on, the quality that you offer and based on word of mouth, that is called as organic growth. As opposed to you are spending millions of dollars in advertisements and, giving goodies to people and then making them come. That is not considered organic growth. Okay. So why we are talking about this? Organic growth may seem to be slow. It may seem like exactly if you look at Pragmatic Gita, for example, I don't spend money on advertising, So today I have maybe 1,000 visitors. That is what Google tells me, And I'm not even worried about that. But the point is, those 1,000 are organic, which means nobody has tried to convince them. But what is the benefit of that? The benefit of organic growth is it is firm. It is guaranteed. They are your most loyal customers. The customers who are coming organically. Why I'm talking about that? When we say faith, how do you develop that faith? Are you developing that faith based on a $1,000 course that you do somewhere, or how do you develop that faith? No, the organic way to develop that faith is satsanga. That is the magic. That is what the saints have said. All the saints have said. That is what Sri Krishna has also said. Because right now, knowingly or unknowingly, we are all having a collective consciousness. We just discussed Anahat Naad and string theory and all of that. But do you have conviction in that? Because if you have conviction, then I don't have to tell you. You will yourself realize that all 14, 15 or 20 of us right now, today some of us are absent, but let us say around 20 are listening. We are having connected by that collective consciousness right now. So knowingly or unknowingly, my heart, your heart, it's all vibrating to the same thoughts, the same, bhava. And we are all focusing on Krishna. So that has an amplifying effect. That is generating faith and conviction organically. So if you can do this, if you can be consistent with the satsanga, that will help grow your faith organically, and that faith will last a long time. Is the whole essence of what all the saints have illustrated. Now you can look at many other stories. Some of it you already know, otherwise take note of it and do your own research. This famous story of Shabri in Ramayana. She was poor and all of that, and what she was giving Lord Rama was, juta. Like she had touched the fruit with her own mouth, and we don't give that to anybody, right? We don't give that even to our guests. How can you give it to the God? But Lord Rama accepts it lovingly. Why? Because the two elements are existing, humility and faith. For her, Ram was everything. And that is what is important to God. Even otherwise, what is yours to give? The only thing we can give is unconditional love and faith. So that story is one great example. There are other examples as well, that you can, the story that Krishna, when he visited the court of the Kurus, Duryodhana was like, you have to come have food with me, because he's the cunning, statesman. So he wants Krishna on his side. So he says, come to me. And he's like boasting about, chappan bhog and all, like I will make so many types of food. Krishna very politely refuses, because he's like, Vidurani is waiting for me. And who is Vidurani? Vidurani is Vidura's wife, very poor. They are humble and poor, and they don't have all the adambar that a prince or a king can have. And does anyone remember what is the first thing Vidurani actually feeds Krishna? Yes, Ekansh?
Banana peel.
Exactly. She's so engrossed in Krishna, she's so lost. She's so full of love that she doesn't even realize that she's removing the peel of a banana, and instead of giving him the banana and throwing the peel, she's giving him the peel and throwing the banana. But Krishna is relishing it. And when Vidurji looks at it, Vidurji then says, oh Vidurani, what are you doing? You are giving a peel to Krishna? And then she comes to her senses. And then she feeds him the banana. And then what Krishna says after that? He says this banana is not as tasty as the peel. Why? Because now she's feeding that banana in a normal level of consciousness as a human. Whereas when she was feeding him the peels, she was lost. She was somewhere else. She was in union with Krishna mentally. You see? So these are the stories that you should reflect upon, not just for their dramatic appeal, but also for the essence that they contain. The essence will always be of humility and faith. Wherever you see this is what has defined somebody to be a great person. In the true sense. Great not from a pride perspective. Great from a Mahatma. Be it Mirabai, be it Shabri, be it Vidurani, even be it Draupadi. When did Krishna come to help Draupadi? Because Draupadi spent so much time arguing, reasoning. With Bhishma and everybody else, she's talking about how it is your responsibility, how can you let this happen in your court, and what about woman's honor, and she's going on and on. But only when she raises her hand and says, Krishna, I surrender, you help me. See, Krishna is not waiting for any drama, but Krishna is just saying, do you have the humility? Do you have the faith? Do you have the faith? Then the doors open. You see, like that. There are many stories. You can go read them up, and maybe when we do the revision, we can discuss some of them again. So quickly, let us talk about some practical applications. Because it is so powerful, I want to wrap it up with some practical applications. One, whenever you begin any activity, especially let us say you want to start meditation in the morning or chanting or whatever, you should at least start with the Om and with the right mindset so that you are aligned with the cosmic frequency. Then the rest of your chanting will automatically be right. Second, what disturbs us mostly? For example, this may not be pleasant, but it is important. So I will tell you. How many of you know that there was a big earthquake in Thailand? Yeah, some of you are nodding your head. It was a huge earthquake, 7.7. But you are not looking totally heartbroken. You are not looking sad. Okay? Now imagine somebody comes and tells you that, oh, your son was actually in one of the hotels that collapsed. No, you will not be in the session anymore. Right? The same thing will suddenly become heartbreaking. It will suddenly become a very big tragedy for you. What changed? That is attachment. Okay, so attachment causes a lot of misery, is the whole message that is all over Vedanta. So Krishna has said that Tat, Om, align, Tat. Let's say that the same divinity exists everywhere. So detachment doesn't mean don't love anybody. Detachment means love everybody. Okay. Let the scope of your love increase. And then have the humility that not everything is in your control. You don't control the earthquake. You cannot control the lightning. You cannot control the storm. So the Tat will help you get detachment, and when you have more detachment, you will be less disturbed by things going on. Then the third is Sat. That will give you discernment. This word Krishna has used many times, correct? What do you mean by discernment? This is what is meant by discernment. We always said Shreya versus Preya. Why? Because Shreya is aligned with Sat. So when you say Om Tat Sat, that Sat should always keep hitting you like a hammer that says discernment. Always choose that is right, what is right, not what is comfortable. And that will always keep you aligned with the truth and prevent you from going astray here and there. And then faith. How do you grow faith? Satsanga. Don't miss opportunities to be in a satsanga. This is the best investment you are making in your own life. You don't realize it. But this satsanga, this 1 hour, this 1.5 hours that you are spending with each other at the same time, listening to the same things, thinking the same thing, that is golden. You can always listen to my podcast. You can always listen to a million other YouTube videos. It will not have the same effect. See? So don't miss this opportunity of satsanga. That is how, as we just discussed, organic way to develop your faith. Your faith is now increasing. Your faith has increased a little bit compared to what it was 1 hour ago. Not just because of what I'm saying, but because of how you are listening. You are listening along with your satsanga. That is actually helping you develop the faith. You will have to just have faith that you'll have to take this with faith and believe in it. And finally, the biggest problems today we have, anxiety, worry. The best way to overcome them is through surrender. Surrender means this mindset of control, give it away. Just focus on actions, don't focus on results. And automatically you will overcome these problems. See, questions are very natural. There have been people who have asked questions. There have been people who have asked questions like, oh, if I have faith, does it mean that I will not have any difficulties in life? That is not what Krishna has ever said. That is not what any saint has said. Nobody has said that if you have faith, you will not have difficulties. All they have said is, when you have faith, you will get the strength to overcome any difficulty. Okay, that is the key message. And every obstacle will become more like an exercise to strengthen you further. So when faith grows, then you will also feel more and more like you want to now listen to more spiritual topics, you want to be more with satsanga. That will all happen. Then you will know. Then you will know that your faith is growing. So let me conclude this with a small introspection. Krishna has reiterated the importance of faith. I am also reiterating it many times. Lack of pride and presence of faith. If I tell you what is the most important takeaway for you, practical, this is the two things. And I've also told you how to measure if your faith is growing, how to measure if you are elevating in your level of consciousness. The metrics, don't forget the metrics. Am I worrying less? Am I less prideful? And am I more grateful? 3 metrics, write it down, print it out, put it in front of you somewhere. Okay? And that should be your metrics. And how do you do this? How do you make sure that this really helps you in your life? Consistency. That is all. Like we said Om Tat Sat, but even that Om Tat Sat has to be consistent. No? Because one wrong turn will create so much disturbance that it will take a long time before you come back to the right path. Again, this is the nature of life. So we have to be as consistent as possible. This is pretty much another perspective behind Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ye Jana Paryupasute Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. This is where the Ananya Chintan is important. Now does it make more sense? Why the Ananya Chintan? Because only that will always keep you grounded. Only that will always keep you on the right path. No? Very important. So, and what else does Ananya Chinta? What else does that shloka says apart from just being consistent? It says have the faith. Have the faith that if you are consistently following my teachings, then Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. You remember the beautiful discussion we had. It is not Yogakshemam Dadamyaham. It is Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. He says, I will myself carry what you need for you. But we have to have the faith. When will the faith come? When you have been consistent. See how you work backwards? Now this will make sense. Faith will come only if you yourself know. Every one of us knows whether we have been consistent. So we will not get that faith until we are consistent. But if we are consistent, the faith will automatically come. And if the consistency gives you the faith, then that's it. Correct? That's all you need. So with that, I will conclude this glorious 17th chapter, Hare Krishna. I think this was a very powerful teaching from Krishna. So I took a little longer. And I think now I can stop talking. I can open the floor for any questions, comments. Yes, Sandeep ji.
I just want to add, I don't know like it's right or wrong. So you said anxiety and pride has I in the middle. So we have to leave that. But similarly, faith also has I in the middle, which we need to keep. So that is also dependent on us only.
Correct.
I just want to add that.
Very correct. I is always in the middle. Now you decide whether you give it importance or whether you take it out of that middle. Is the whole. Well, by the way, divine has 3 eyes. So, but so as I said, it was more like an analogy, more like a, helpful tip for us to.
Easy to remember.
Easy to remember, yes. Thank you. Smitaji, you had anything to say or are you just...
I have a question, Guruji. For anxiety, Is it always pride? Because I'm just thinking like sometimes you'll be anxious about, let's say you visited a doctor or something for your daughter and you're waiting for some results or something. That is fear or that is anxious? You're anxious that the results will be okay. So there is no pride, right? It is more about you wanting it to be okay. Or
Exactly. You just gave the answer, the last part.
Okay.
You wanting it to be okay.
That is again pride?
Well, that is the anxiety is depending on that, right?
Okay. I thought it was more like, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. So the point is, we have a certain expectation. We want to control the outcome. Anxiety is all about, is it going to happen the way I want it to, right? So that is why we say anxiety has that pride as a fundamental problem.
Yeah, because I want the results to be good. So it's again what we want. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Welcome. Yes, Deepaji? Thoughtful? Is it making sense?
No, I just wanted to say like Sat Sang, as you say, no? So the word Sat, which is like referred to Purusha or which is never changing. I mean, there itself it's Sat Sang. So if you keep that in mind and you keep that company, that itself also has a meaning.
Excellent. Applause. Yeah. Satsang is a group of people who are all trying to align with Sat. That is what a satsang is.
Yeah. That's what when you're saying Sat, that's and Satsang. So that's what came to mind.
Excellent. Yes, Ekansh.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. Guruji, if I want to put this in one line, Om Tat Sat. Om is the line with Supreme. Tat is with detachment, like renunciation in action. I am nobody. And Sat is the Purusha, never changing, always eternal.
You are not wrong, but I think it can be slightly more accurate. Like Om is aligning with the divine consciousness. It is aligning with that cosmic frequency. When Krishna says, I am Om, it is a frequency and everything is frequency. The fundamental building block of anything you can perceive is frequency. So Om helps you align, purify, align. Tat is that divine supreme which is present everywhere. So somebody is always watching. That keeps you, humble. That acknowledgement that something that is everywhere but I still cannot perceive. Isn't that a statement of our limitation? I am telling you, एकांश तुम्हारा आंखों के सामने हाथी खड़ा है और आपको दिख नहीं रहा. Will that not make you humble? कि वो मुझे हाथी भी नहीं दिख रहा है. You see? So Tat is that. It is everywhere. It is present in every atom, but we cannot perceive. So that keeps us humble. At the same time, that always keeps us on the right track because someone is always watching. And Sat is Sat. Sat helps you tie the yoke of, when we say tie your senses to the yoke of God consciousness, what does it mean? That is the Sat, ever present, eternal,
Absolute. Yeah.
absolute, never changing. That is Sat. So when all of this come together, it keeps you in the right mindset, it purifies you, it keeps you humble, it keeps you grounded. And then what else did we learn? It is not just one line, correct? That one line is still a philosophy. If that line has to be meaningful to you, if that line has to be useful to you,
faith.
Exactly. That faith is what is going to give life to that line. You see what I mean? So yes. So next time if you want to do something, remember Om Tat Sat, understand Om Tat Sat and have the faith. There are some people who will say, I know that doctor is really good. I know that Google has 5-star reviews for that doctor. I know that doctor has so many certifications. That is why I'm going to that doctor. But they don't really have faith that the doctor can heal them. But that is the most important part of any medicine to work.
Yes, Guruji.
That is why there is a lot of research on, they call it the placebo effect. There are people who are given just a sugar pill, but they believe that it is going to heal them and they actually get healed. And vice versa. There is also a research called nocebo effect, where conversely, somebody is actually getting a medicine, but they don't believe it is a medicine and they don't believe it's going to cure them, so the medicine does nothing to them. So these are all documented. Even in the material world also, this is all documented, but it's all the more important in the spiritual world. So hope that answers your question, Ekansh.
Yes, Guruji. More clarity. Thank you so much.
Yes, Tulataji.
Guruji, Krishna also told in chapter 8, I think, where Om is so powerful.
Yes.
Like it's like the vehicle for spiritual liberation. Like when our mind fixed on Him in our Antakale, even Om, reciting Om will take us to Him.
Yes, very nice. Very nice. So there are 3 chapters in which Krishna has spoken about Om, at least 3 chapters. It's your homework. You can go and try to find out. Of course, one was in the Vibhutis, where he spoke about his Vibhutis, he spoke about Om. But there are 2 more chapters where he has spoken about Om. One of it is 8th chapter. There is one more chapter where he has spoken about Om. So you can take that as a homework and say Om Tat Sat and then do the homework. And try to find which other chapter he's spoken about Om. Okay then, Hare Krishna. Yes, Deepaji, you had something else?
When you were explaining again, can you hear me?
Yes.
To Ekansh, and I was just trying to connect the dots, like when you. So, I mean, if we have to sum it, or the key takeaways is aligned to the never-changing divine with complete faith. That's what comes. The 3 things: Om, Tat, Sat, never-changing, and we cannot comprehend the Tat and divinity. That's the way I would. I mean, just to recall, kind of. Does it make sense?
You are all right. No wrong answers here.
That's all.
Yeah. See, we have broken these into 3, so it's not that complex.
Mm-hmm.
And I have myself given you a sentence which also you can try to reflect on, where I said that Om will channel the cosmic vibration of the Supreme. So that is a way of aligning with the Supreme, because Supreme is vibration, right?
Yeah.
Tat reminds us of the invisible divine presence. And Sat reinforces the need to acknowledge and surrender to that unchanging truth. So that is how they all come together. And so if we can have the right bhava and faith, then we will know that this is probably the most powerful mantra that we can ever use for our own development. So that is what I promised before this session, and that is what Krishna has delivered. Okay. Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Blessings and best wishes to each one of you, and let us meet again next week. We will have revision. And this revision can be fun and interesting because 17th chapter is itself so profound. Okay, Hare Krishna.
And happy Gudi Padwa to all those celebrating. I mean, we are already celebrating here in India and Dubai, and to those who will celebrate tomorrow in Canada and Vancouver.
Yes. Happy Gudi Padwa.
Happy Padwa.
Thank you. Happy Gudi Padwa. Hare Krishna.